Hello, hello. How's it going? My name is Cory Endrulat, and I'm here with You Are the Question, the show. And so I want to thank the One Great Work Network. That's at onegreatworknetwork.com for premiering and showing this episode. This is another episode following a chain of episodes that I'm doing with my sister. And basically, if you don't know what the One Great Work Network is, we are a collective of individuals who are content creators and teachers alike, seeking to open the minds of people and help bring to awareness universal concepts such as the natural law. And what is the show that I have here? Well, you're the question, therefore I am also the question. We, by our actions that are to be a question, help determine the world we live in. So by questioning ourselves, our condition, our actions, we question how we can help make the world a better place together. This is a show where we seek answers present for us all by nature. The world depends on you. Where you stand, you are the question. And so the objective of the show is to teach others one-on-one natural law directly and practically, utilizing coaching techniques such as questions, recitation, and helping guests come to their own conclusions. It becomes a hands-on learning experience for everyone so that folks may even help teach others this knowledge. Now, we took a break a little bit from this show because I had some problems with my computer. I had to fix the drive issues that I had. But we're going to continue on here and see where we're at, do a little review of all the topics that we went through so far and see where we want to go with this, because we don't have to go through every little topic and every little detail to talk about natural law. We could keep it rather simple, and we don't have to go do a bunch more shows if we don't have to. So I want to see where my guest is, my sister, with this knowledge and where she wants to take it. For this show, and so then that'll determine how many more we want to go from here to better enhance our knowledge and get that tapestry of knowledge, because everything is connected, and that's why we went over all those previous details. So some ways of teaching this knowledge is more in depth. However, as different guests are introduced, new ways of teaching will come with it, and the difference is often dependent on where an individual currently stands is with their learning, like I said. So this is live on twitch.tv/KooKooNut That's KOOKOONUT, and live comments will be read and may or may not be discussed. And through exploring all the many different ideas we have to talk about, our knowledge of natural law becomes more defined and thorough, therefore understood. So a quick disclaimer, I do not expect any one guest to know the full nature thereof statism or natural law by the end of each show, but it is my goal to help everyone understand that, because that is what the show is for, and we're here to explore always different perspectives. So I'm here to introduce my guest once again, my sister, Endrulat.
Hot minute. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited. Yeah. We're gonna
Yeah.
have a great show. I mean, we've been away for a little bit, but I think honestly, I think the topics are gonna remain the same, and if anything, we're gonna have more new topics to talk about, because I think our world has changed a little bit since then, new discoveries, new things, but I mean,
Right.
overall natural law has stayed the same, and that's always going to be a foundation
Right.
to everything. But I'm excited to see what topics and everything that we're going to be discussing today.
It's
So
true.
bring
We
it
can
on.
we can talk about it till the end of time, and in the same
Yeah,
way too.
exactly.
It's nothing. There's nothing new under the sun, so everything remains the
Exactly.
same. So
Hmm.
let's just do a quick review of
Sure.
these slides. So we have here natural law, the real law of attraction, it says, and how to apply it to your life. So the law of attraction, what you attract is what you get, right? And then we went through teachability, how people are open-minded or closed-minded, and that determines how good they are willing to learn, which is this middle position here between the
Yep.
teacher and the student. So the one who teaches others and the one who teaches themselves, there's always room for improvement. And yet at the same time, there's always something that you have that you can share with others. So you're a teacher and a student, and you're in the best position to learn, where you're not too arrogant and not too naive. And we
Find
want
that
to
balance.
Right.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we look at our sources of information, make sure that we're not being mind controlled by different institutions making us think
Hmm.
certain ways, whether it be around
Hmm.
politics or religion or
Huge.
science or even money, which is the biggest form. And so we have requirements to what we say, what we want in the world, and they do not just manifest magically. They don't just manifest on their own. We have to attract that, like I said, the law of attraction. So there's requirements, and those are actions that we have to take in order to obtain what we want. So it's basically our ignorance of the requirements that will keep us away from what we need to do, that we know we should do. And we see here with the pyramid system, those at the top have some knowledge that those at the bottom do not, because they're in the dark, they're in the bricks. And that's what occult means. It means hidden. And when we say occult knowledge, it means hidden knowledge. So we went over these topics before. And what we said was hidden knowledge was natural law, in particular, because if everybody had it, it would level this playing field. It would flatten out this pyramid, and you wouldn't have a select few people on top of the pyramid, because people either know their rights, they know natural law, which entails the same thing, or they know about statism, they know about this information, right? Because it says it's the most deeply occulted information. So once people have the information, then it's no longer hidden. So the pyramid system goes away. It is the nature of a hierarchy to be as such, somebody having certain knowledge that others don't have, because knowledge is power. And we describe nescience versus ignorance. Basically, nescience just means the knowledge isn't there, so you can't be ignorant of it. So it's not your fault, really, if you don't know about it. But ignorance is if the knowledge is there, but you're just ignoring it. So it technically is your fault because you're in denial. And for the case of natural law, which is all around us, what we often see is ignorance. But the term itself obviously could be nescient, because a lot of people hear the word natural law or the specific things we put it under. And a lot
Now,
of
would
people...
ignorance be
Sure.
also like a filter that people may not see past? Kind of just like it's right in front of them, but they refuse to accept the fact that there's evidence, there's literally the answer right in front of them, but they're so, I guess, ignorant that they're not accepting that, and they still believe in one ideology, or they still believe in this one thing. Does
Yeah.
that fall under that as well, kind
Yeah.
of thing, like that filter? Yeah.
Yeah, a filter, something that's blocking them from seeing a bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're closed-minded in the aspect that they're closed-minded because they only have one thing that is closing their mind on. So
Okay.
they're
Yep.
only thinking about this one thing, and everything else is just out of the picture and not even an option, not even something to consider. So that's definitely the case. Whoops. Oh, sorry. All right, it froze up a
Freeze
bit.
frame. Pretty freeze.
I did that actually, I think. But
Mm.
but yeah, we'll go back to the slides here. It's
Yeah.
we don't want to be lazy. We want to pay attention to what we contribute into the world. That way, we don't put out into the world what we don't want to put out in the world. And we got to
Yeah.
be conscious that there are people who put on uniforms, and we have to question their humanity and their actions as well. It doesn't matter if they put on uniforms, they call themselves government. They hold themselves accountable to the same actions that we do, or at least they should. They're just like one of us. And the world is kind of in this prison state. And so we have to ask the question, why? Why are we stuck in that prison, and how do we unlock it? Well, with the key that is the knowledge that we mentioned before. So that's what we're going to do. Problem solve, right? Whoops. Problem solve. I keep making minor mistakes, just coming back. Problem solving. So recognize there's a problem, and then try not to be in denial of it. That's what denial looks like. And then
Yep.
recognize that the symptoms are merely the effects of the causes. So what you need to do is find the cause, right? Because you'll find out there's a problem if you notice there's all these problems rising up due to the problem. But if you notice there's all these problems, then you have to keep asking yourself, well, what's actually causing the problem? This is not the problem itself. Although it is a problem, it may not be the deepest problem. So we have
Yeah.
to get to the cause and make a diagnosis, which means through way of knowledge. So everything is a matter of knowledge here in education. For good reason, because even Thomas Jefferson said education is the only surest path to liberty. And so then we see here knowledge acquired via accurate diagnosis. Once we have that knowledge, we can take the action. It only comes natural that if we have the knowledge of the root cause and what we can do about it, we'll take action, right? And anybody who sees that they can do something that will help solve their problem, they're probably going to want to do it, especially if it's going to fix all their other problems. Now, truth is objective. It is simply what is. It is not based on the perceptions of human beings. It's all that has been in the past and all that is occurring in the present. That's what truth is.
Yes.
And
truth will set you free, but also give you the freedom that you deserve and that you were born the right with.
Right.
The right that you were born with. That's it.
Right. Freedom is actually a form of property. We all have that. We all are to be free. And we'll discuss that later on, what I mean by that. And truth versus perception. Perception, the goal of perception is to align with truth and to make sure that it best works with the truth, just like our actions. Because again, what we perceive into the world, what we think becomes our actions. And here's a quote, this is what goes along with the filter you were talking about. It says, most people's perceptions of reality are filtered through the screening mesh of what they want and do not want to be true.
Yeah.
So they're deciding what truth is.
Or they're like too afraid to accept the truth because they're afraid of, I mean, I honestly think that you should conquer your fears instead of being afraid of them.
Right.
But they feed so much fear and panic into us nowadays that that's what everyone now knows what to do. They're really pros at it. So.
Yeah. Hi, Trajan, by the way. Just figured to give you a shout out since we're live streaming on Coconut TV. And then we talked about solipsism, which was just an idea we're going to revisit just a little bit because it has to do with brain imbalance, which is where we left off.
I remember we talked about that.
And we left off on brain imbalance, right? So that's where solipsism is going to come into play. It basically means that one person only believes their own mind is sure to exist, and that nothing else is actually sure. So there's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing. There's none of it could be sure. We don't know. Basically, making it seem as if we're hopeless or that everything revolves around ourselves. And it can
very
have,
egotistic.
Right. It can have good sides like confidence, right, or strong egos. But those egos tend to be destructive always at the end of the day. The Buddha always spoke much about how dangerous ego is, and solipsism is an example of a situation a lot of people don't know they are in. So definitely something for viewers to look into if they want to learn more. But concerning natural law, it mainly just concerns the brain imbalances. It's more of a psychological condition. And so definition, well, we want to seek the definition of words, right? Because that helps us get a better clarity of meaning on what we're talking about. So natural law, it's inherent. It stands for nature, what natural means. Natural means reality or truth, not made or caused by humankind. And then law, which is an existing condition, which is binding and immutable. So just by looking at the word law, I mean, that within itself is something that we don't often use with the word law. When we say obey the law, the laws are often changing, right? Man is always changing their laws. And yet the definition of law says it cannot be changed, and that it is binding and immutable. So,
If they somehow find a loophole, they somehow do.
It's in our language. It's in our language that they deceive us. By using the word law, they presuppose that there's no such thing as natural law, and that man's law is the law. And so they make it sound as if it is binding and immutable, and you have to follow whatever we put out there, and that it's permanent for everyone to follow. But the only thing that could truly be as such is natural law, because it's inherent to nature. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Man is always faulty. Anything man does is usually opinionated. It's never eternal, not universal. Hi, buddy. And so.
You heard your voice.
So natural law as a whole is universal, non-man-made, binding and immutable conditions that govern our behavior, right? And man's law tries to govern our behavior by setting their own rules and saying you can and cannot do this, and by fear of punishment you must obey. But for natural law, it's governing our consequences to our behavior all the time, even for what affects man's law does, because it's still within natural law's domain. It's above all things. And so it is universal spiritual laws, and that's why it is above all things. And it is governing dynamics of consciousness. And we question, what is consciousness? And consciousness was a mixture between mind, body, and spirit. Right? So we'll get to that soon. Belief is irrelevant, because if you don't believe in, gravity or density, or if you don't believe in the simple laws of the universe and how things work, you might hurt yourself, like this person here who jumps off the cliff and thinks that it's irrelevant and that they don't need to know that they'll fall and hurt themselves, but they probably should, so they don't. And that's why belief is actually completely irrelevant, just as it is irrelevant to any of the other laws of nature. And no belief is required. And it's not even, nobody has to believe in natural law for it to be true. It's already happening. The matter of understanding it, however, helps us with our own actions in the world. Because if we know what will happen to our actions, then we know what world is going to happen in result. So there are two ways one can be fooled. One is to believe what is not true, and the other is to refuse to accept what is true. So that is negative knowledge, and that is ignorance. Negative knowledge, something that is deceiving you, and ignorance, something that you just refuse to accept. Are you good, Crystal?
Yes,
Okay.
but I'm so sorry. Buddy off screen is staring at you. Wait, let me show. He's staring at you on stream. And he's trying to give you kisses through the screen.
Wow. Probably wants to attack me.
Probably. I was literally... He's trying to give you kisses, and I think it's the funniest thing ever. Okay, I'm so sorry. Continue.
You think this guy's handsome?
He has nice hair. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Consciousness in the brain. So consciousness, like I mentioned before, is pattern recognition. It is being aware of our environment. And again, it's body, mind, and spirit. Emotions, actions, and thoughts. That makes up the Holy Trinity. That's why there's the pyramid, because the three sides represent the Holy Trinity. Okay, and keep in mind, again, going back to this definition, it's governing the dynamics of consciousness. So natural law governs our body, mind, spirit. Okay,
Body,
otherwise known as our actions, emotions, and thoughts. Yes. All of these are influenced by each other. And so brain structure, we talked about the three different parts of the brain. We talked about the neocortex, the limbic brain, and our reptile brain, the brainstem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we remember the neocortex, which is this upper part of the brain. Of course, we're looking at it on its side right now, okay? We're looking at it on its side, and the upper part is the neocortex. There's two hemispheres to that neocortex. Remember, there's a left brain and there's a right brain, both part of that neocortex. Now, inside of this brain, we see here more toward the center of the brain, we have the mammal brain, which is the emotions. And oftentimes in today's world, the emotions tend to run people's lives, right? Whatever feels or affects them the most causes people to take action into the world. So not so much always thinking about other people and caring for them or putting themselves in their shoes, but sometimes their emotions can run their life. And hopefully it's not in an egotistical fashion, but it can be. And if we try to utilize all our neocortex, then we are utilizing both our mammal brain and our reptile brain. Because remember, our right brain is connected with the mammal brain, the emotions, and our left brain is connected with the reptile brain, the survival part. Okay, so, and you'll see that here as well. We have the intellect on the left brain, intuition on the right brain. These are different words for it. Intellect, logic, thought, analytics. And then intuition is creativity, holistic thought, compassion. So right brain generally sounds better to most people, right? Because it's compassion and stuff that a lot of the world doesn't have. So most people talk about the right brain as a good thing, but there's also an imbalance for the right brain, right? And so the human brain, we want to use both sides. And this is, you can research this yourself, of course, both sides of the brain and how they work together. True intelligence is having the combination of both, the intellect of the left brain and the creativity of the right brain. Okay? Are
Yep.
you following so far? So far?
I am.
Okay.
I'm fully immersed. Yeah, I'm paying attention. I'm just very focused. Yeah.
Left brain, if it becomes imbalanced, selfishness, base desires, domination, and control, right? So the R complex takes
Yep.
over again, the reptile brain. Then we have the right brain. If that takes over, then the limbic system takes over emotions. So you become too emotional. You become submissive or naivete. You just accept things. Whatever people say, you just nod along, kind of just forget that you have a mind of your own. And, you can be a very nice person for doing that and supportive. But if you're not thinking for yourself and your own actions, you still could end up being hurt. Because what if something is wrong that's being said and you're just nodding along, like going okay with it? You have to speak up and know when to speak up and when a situation is actually wrong. So that's where the left brain comes into play of knowledge, and then the right brain here with like the creativity, emotional connection. So today is where we left off, and that is the schism. We have the mix between the left and the right brain. And this is usually referring to the worldview schism. Worldview schism. So each side of the brain, right? People are imbalanced on left brain or right brain. Some people have left brain balance, some people have right brain balance. And people can find out for themselves if they have an open mind, of course, to begin with. And each side will have a certain view on different topics in the world, right? Like it might become more obvious. Like, for example, when it comes to religion, which side do you think is going to be more religious? The left brain or the right brain?
The right brain.
Correct, right brain. And why is that?
I don't know if it was you who told me that. I always remember the right brain just being more nurturing, like a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just always looking out what is right, what is going to ultimately feed the body with like just positivity, joy, and bliss kind of thing. In a sense.
Right,
Um, but also kind of just have that warm touch to it as well, have
right.
that nurturing factor.
Now
Yeah.
let me ask you, do you want to go through the brain hemispheres and stuff before we get more into natural law, or do you feel like you can advance past this and we can
Yeah,
move further?
I think I'm okay with the brain. I think I understood that because I think we covered that a lot the last time. We really covered
Okay.
like
So,
the masculine, feminine. Yeah. Oh, well, not this, but I know we talked about
mm-hmm.
the left and right a lot. So I
Right.
mean, now
Yeah.
I mean I think let's touch upon it. Yeah, if you
Okay.
want.
You see the left brain and the right brain here on the screen.
Hmm.
And notice this is mind control because if we're stuck in one part of the brain, well, again, we can be mind controlled because now we're thinking about certain things and leaving out everything else. So that is
Right.
controlling our actions because it's controlling our thoughts. So, the question here is how do you think the right brain views this? How do you think the left brain views this? And if you look at each line, like go one line at a time, here I'll put my mouse over each one. You know, we have solipsism is on both, right? So notice that because they both will believe, well, I'm right. The world surrounds around me, and there's nothing but me, and this is all we can figure out. This is all that there is, and that's why we're mind controlled because we're only staying in one way of thinking. So solipsism can occur on both ends. Now, naivete means, of course, you are being submissive and you're just accepting things, blind belief. Does everything on here, do you understand what everything means on here? Or is there some things you have to define, like on the
No,
left
I
brain?
think athletic. What is it? Atheism. Atheism.
Atheism.
Oh,
Atheism. Yeah.
it was really small, so from afar it looked like athleteism.
Mm.
I'm like, what is like being competitive, being very. I'm like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. But no, okay, atheism. Um, yeah, and then solipsism is on both. Self-loathing, meaning like you don't. Oh, because it's like you don't really have the confidence. You're not like not like the willpower. That's why you're a willing slave.
You
Okay,
yeah,
that
you
makes sense.
lack the self-respect, right? So you put
Mm,
yourself down in some regards. We're going to go over self-loathing as well, actually.
yeah.
Um,
Moral
that's important.
relativism.
Moral
Moral rel-
relativism. Yeah. That's why I
Mm,
wanted you to look at this because I knew you'd be unfamiliar with some of these words, and I wasn't going to
a
ask
little bit.
questions about it. So,
Yeah.
moral relativism means that basically um, you are deciding what right and wrong is for yourself.
Okay.
There's no objective basis in reality. There's no objective right and wrong. So this kind of gets rid of the whole idea of natural law within itself, because natural law is determining, this is what happens due to this result, and you have rights that are inherent to creation, and those rights are are things that are not wrongs. So it's
Mm-hmm.
making it objective. Whereas moral relativism says, well, none of that exists. Natural law is not a thing. You can just decide whatever right and wrong is for yourself, and whatever it is whatever it is. A lot of people tend to believe in moral relativism, and that is very dangerous because then they forget their own rights or the fact that there's objective basis to it. So just like how we talked about belief and jumping off a cliff, there's an objective result to what happens to you. There's an objective result for behavior and the consequences to your behavior. So that is where right and wrong comes in. And is your behavior right or is it wrong to do to somebody else?
Um,
Right?
well,
So,
yeah, I mean, you want to be kind. I mean, kindness at the end of the day is the ultimate goal,
mhm.
but that's on you if you want to be kind to one
Right.
another.
Moral relativism is the thing that a lot of people tend to struggle with because this thing, like I said, they get to decide and be God for a bit in saying, well, I can
Mm,
just decide what right and wrong is, and it doesn't matter if there's any objective basis in nature. They just disregard it altogether and say, well, I can do this. It doesn't matter. There's no, I can do whatever I want. I can steal
yeah.
from someone, and I say it's right, and because I say it's
Yeah.
right, it's right. But doesn't mean it's actually right.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and that's what a lot of college kids or people who are raised in today's world are thinking because they're not taught about objective morality in nature, right and wrong action. And so, because they lack morality, we lack freedom and we lack our understanding of rights, we lack our understanding of natural law. Because if we can't determine what a right and a wrong is, then we don't then it's all just left up in the air and everyone's just
Mm-hmm.
deciding for themselves, and then people are stealing, looting, they're doing all these things not realizing
Savagery.
that it's bad. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And they make themselves exceptions, and keep in mind, right, if the law is telling them how they should act and those laws disregard morality too, they're not going to care. The lawmakers themselves, they're practicing moral relativism because they're not
Correct.
thinking about right and wrong in nature. They're deciding what that is for people by saying, well, if you disobey, you're doing wrong. But disobeying is not doing something wrong. Disobeying is disobeying against whatever law someone put into practice, man's law. So
Yeah.
people are punished all the time for crimes that are non-violent, for crimes that aren't harming anybody or doing anything wrong. So in our world, we're taught that legality is morality, but legality is not morality. They're two separate things. And so that's where the dynamic really comes in. Social Darwinism, which is right below it, is more of the evolution type of speak. Yes, are you distracted?
No, I'm looking at chat. No.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
looking.
Trajan, what's up? Social Darwinism is like you know who Darwin is? Charles Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he invented evolution and those theories, right? He talks about like
Yep.
natural selection, but that doesn't have to do with natural law. So it has nothing to do with it. People, if you mention natural law to them, they might think it is that, but it isn't. So don't get fooled, okay?
So then what's social Darwinism then?
Social Darwinism is the type of evolutionary type of control. Again, trying to decide who to be God. I mean,
Oh, okay,
trying
okay.
to,
So like that's why eugenics is on there too.
yes,
Okay. That
yeah,
makes sense. Okay.
because evolution has to deal with genetics, right? And raising
Yeah.
people up and saying, well, oh, well, humans come from this, and so we can modify
Yeah.
their genes and turn them into whatever we want, and it's perfectly justifiable because who's going to stop us? They think
Mm,
there's no consequences to their behavior in nature, that they can just get along with their crimes or whatever, and
right.
think it's perfectly fine. Now, some people who are listening might actually think this is fine, and if you think that is fine for genetic modification and changing humans and putting them above other human beings in this sense of saying that they're more special, um, you know, you have the belief system of the Sumerian Empire. The first ever government was created, and it was between masters and slaves. The masters were the priest class. They thought they were special gifts of God, and so they had the right to rule over
Oh,
everyone else because they thought they were special, like they were gods. And I'm like, ooh, we can rule over you because you're not gods, but we are.
right.
So this has been going on for thousands of years, where certain people feel like they're more special than others, so they have the right to rule over others, and they can
Mm,
just change their genetics, do whatever they want, no consequences. But there always is.
right. I bet there's a lot of people that can think of examples. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, authoritarianism is self-explanatory. Just take this, break down the word authority, and then tarianism. So if authority is taken to the extreme, so I want to rule over everybody. That's basically what it means.
Yeah.
Authoritarianism.
Be the ruler of them all
Yeah.
and
Um,
control them all.
there's other words for it, like
Yeah.
oligarchy, and
Um,
there's others that you can use, but that's the main one. And then if you look at the right brain, we're basically just a slave. So
mhm.
you might see here that the left brain is kind of in charge of the right brain, right? Because the right brain is, if it's so submissive, and the left brain is so order giver,
Willing.
yeah, like so willing to just like pull people in directions,
Yeah.
then the left brain is often in control of things, and the right brain is just going with it.
Right.
So we have to feel sorry for the right brain, but at the same time empower the right brain to hopefully overcome the slave mentality to become better than their masters on the left brain. You
Yeah.
know, so they can feel that they can feel no longer self-loathing. They can have a feeling of self-respect. They can feel self-empowered to take control of their own lives, and make sure their genes are not being edited, um, take control of their health, take control of their mind, because right now it's being mind controlled if they are only thinking about what orders they're being given. And that is not the truth. The truth is having a combination of both, right? Being the
Balance.
leader and being the follower, and knowing when,
Balance.
yeah, and knowing the difference between what someone is telling you and what your gut is
Right.
telling you, and knowing what's universal truth and what somebody is
Yeah.
trying to tell you to do. There's differences in all these things.
Exactly.
And
And you
so,
don't want too much of one and too much of the other. You know what I mean? Like you said, you want to do
right.
find balance, trust your gut, trust your intuition,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the ultimate strongest entity that you have, what's given to you, you know?
Right. And that is a component of creation, right? Like we
Mhm.
were born with that gift. And so that's more along the right brain, because, we're utilizing what is here and kind of saying, well, you know, we have to listen to what is being said. So we're
Right.
obeying our gut, but we don't want our gut to run every single action in our lives, because if we're driven by, again, survival instinct, then we're not going
Mm.
to always think ahead if things are actually going to hurt us. So we don't want to always use our gut. We also want to listen to what's going around us, and that's where this
Context
comes in. This
clues,
where that's
problem solving.
that's where this comes in. Free will, right, which is the random component of the left brain, and natural law, which is the deterministic component of the right brain. So
Right.
what this means, randomness. Okay, randomness. It's what science believes is that the universe is a grand accident. There's no creator, therefore there's no underlying intelligence in nature. So we can be God. See, we have to create intelligence. We have to create AI. We have to create robots. We have to create these things that are super intelligent and make ourselves this intelligent species. We need to become gods, right? And so it says there's no such thing as natural law, and that existence has no purpose other than to continue to exist. This is the belief of atheism, right? There's no gods, and it's all
There's nothing.
just trying to exist and increase our lifespan, and always working through science to try to achieve our goals.
Right.
Whereas the right brain, a lot of things could be very religious. So again, you don't have to be on the extreme left or right. You might
Spiritual,
have somewhere in between.
religious.
But
Mm-hmm.
understand these differences, very, very big differences. Now, instead of the universe being a grand accident, we have God controls everything. everything is preordained, so everything's planned essentially.
Yeah.
Meaning like,
Yeah.
oh, I pray and hope God's going to give me this, and so next day, you're hoping that He's going to give you that. That it's planned and ready for you. And then free will is an illusion and does not exist. A lot of people may not want to hear this,
Hmm.
but this is just the truth to the matter, of the basis of natural law, and how the universe works with the brain chemistry. And this is what people tend to think if they're right brain or left brain extreme. So, right brain, God controls everything. Change is impossible. Action is ultimately, meaningless. So we want to use our free will, our actions, and align it with the law, natural law. And
Alignment.
natural law is deterministic because, think about it, it comes from God. It's His laws, the creation, the Creator. So God doesn't control everything. We have to work with what God created. So it's a little different than what religions tell us, right? Which is just like, go to church and do all those things. This isn't a religion, it's just simply laws that are on behalf of creation. So, just like there's laws in science, which I'm sure people in the left brain can agree with, hopefully people in the right brain can also agree with the science of natural law, which is created by their own creator that they praise. So, we can try to find a balance here between.
Right, but also have an open mind of both ends, don't just be closed-minded. And I mean, of course, believe in what you believe in, and know what you know, but have an open mind, because if you have a closed mind, then I don't know, you may not learn something. I mean, you may be willing to learn something if you have an open mind,
Mhm.
learn something that is outside maybe your comfort zone that you may have not really experienced before, but that's
Right.
part of the learning process, right?
Free
So
will is everywhere, right? Like we have our free will. We can choose to do whatever we want in the world. That's why it's random. Okay? Because
yeah.
we can do whatever we want in the world. And natural law is what governs that. So that's why it's deterministic, saying, well, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Every time you do something, it's saying, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. So it's always
Correct.
cutting in. And so that's why it's free will plus natural law. Free will is always present, just as natural law is always present. So, nature versus nurture, you might have heard that in science, right? And they talk about, you know, is it genetics or is it the way people are raised? Well, it's both, right? For the reason why people are the way they are. It's not purely on genetics and it's not purely on the way people are raised. It's on both. And we're not angels and we're not demons. Um, our good or evil depends on what we do in the world, right?
Right.
So, would you say we're programmable like computers?
Oh yeah. I think we're totally. Um, Depending on your gullibility and your open-mindedness and stubbornness and arrogance, I think you can be brainwashed into any ideology that is pushed forward based
Hmm.
on how they do it. It could be marketing, it could
So
be,
beliefs.
yeah.
So we're
I
pushed
think,
onto beliefs that condition us.
right. I mean, if we are fed certain things that appeal to us or that don't appeal to us and they're more fear-based, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of influence on that can program us to believe in certain things based on how and what they do to um, ultimately feed us that information, whether it's good or bad. I think they have special tactics and special ways to kind of just subliminally give us that information, whether it's good or bad. But I totally believe that the human brain is programmable. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all programmed. We were all born the same way, right? We all bleed the same blood. So I think as a foundation, we all have the same circuits. It's just we all have like different programming because we're all different and unique, and we all are influenced by different things,
Hmm.
environments,
Yeah.
social.
So, what do you think are those conditioning variables? Those things that condition us? You said beliefs, right? Do
Hmm.
you think anything else, maybe in particular, or is it mainly that?
Like, what are you talking about? Like, influence
Things that
us, like,
condition us into different
um,
operating systems.
family values, your family, your friends, the
Right.
people that you surround yourself with, education, um, social media is a big one too, I think. literally technology, if you're literally on, any type of platform and there's voices to be shared or heard, that can give an influence as well.
So we should want to make our conditions better, right?
Yes, at the end of the day, I think we should want a better, peaceful, very balanced,
Hmm.
natural as can be,
Right.
positive
So you're
world.
like quantity over quality then, right? Of our sources of information and what we're exposed to in our day-to-day
I
life.
think both. I don't know. The quality of your information is very valid. Has to
Mm-hmm.
be very important. I don't know if you want too much of like quantity of it, maybe too overwhelming.
Well, does
I don't know.
quantity matter if you're getting good quality?
No, I guess not.
There you go. And we have so many laws and so many things telling us how to act in today's world. Millions that
Mm,
people never
yeah.
even read. There's books and books that suppose take you 23,000 years or more just
Oof.
to read all the millions of laws that are just in the U.S. alone. Uh,
Wow.
and it's just ridiculous for how many different things there are. And again, they're not based on nature; they're based on opinions of man, put in for people to obey them by all degrees. So, otherwise, you face punishment. So,
Mm.
how does that help us with our human condition? Does it really teach us to be a better moral person? Is that really quality for teaching us morals? Or is it just teaching us how to obey more of the system?
What laws or
Yeah, all these things that are pushed onto our human
pushing us?
condition.
I think more and more people are starting to awaken the fact that certain laws are good and certain laws are just taking advantage of us,
Hmm.
and we're being manipulated and deceived.
Right.
And I think if you acknowledge that and you have an open mind about that, I think that's very empowering and you're a very strong person to realize that. But I think laws in general, I mean, they were made for a reason, right? But was that reason really moral? Was that reason really to help us or more control us? Do
Well,
we have
think
the
about
right?
it. Think about it again. Where is the source coming from, right? Because think about our human condition, and you said like our family raises us up, things raise us up. So what creates a law? It's created by man first and foremost. So we have to
Yeah,
determine,
man-made.
yeah, we have to determine what does that do within itself, regardless of even what the law is doing. It's not going
Yeah,
to be universal. It's not going to be eternal. It's doomed to fail essentially.
yeah.
Because
Because
yeah,
it's not like made naturally. It's not like the
mm-hmm,
human body where it learns how, well, actually it doesn't learn, it knows how to heal itself for itself.
right,
It knows how to adapt to certain things. It knows how to fight off and just find balance and
exactly.
you know. So being man-made,
Like
pros and
medicine,
cons,
right?
like medicine.
Like medicine, it's not always holistic. Doesn't always work with the body, right?
Correct.
And it
Yeah.
can cause problems, more problems than good sometimes.
Hmm.
And
And it doesn't agree.
it's
Yeah.
used
So
for
I
certain
know a lot.
scenarios, but it doesn't help everything at once. It'll help one thing and maybe also cause a problem somewhere else, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
universal to the body, because it's not recognizable by the body. It wasn't created by nature.
Yeah. No, correct.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
So that's a good comparison with medicine. You see here, garbage in, garbage out, quality in, quality out. So
Yeah,
human
like,
beings are
just think of it
programmable.
think of it as the human body, like, if you give it what
Hmm.
it needs to flourish, it's going to literally optimize on that, and it's going to maximize its performance because you're giving it good stuff. So if you're feeding the brain with garbage, you're gonna get garbage out of it, and your actions and your thought process and what you involve yourself with is going to influence that. But if you give your body healthy, um, heartwarming, soul feeding, high vibration, whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Um,
Nutrients and
nutrients, anything that you want to put in your body that's good,
nourishment.
that's good, nourishment. The outcome is going to be great. The outcome is going to benefit you rather than deplete you or suppress you or make you do certain things that you may not agree with, in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. So now we can connect this a bit to what we learned about the brain sides, right? Because that's something a bit new. A lot of the other things might seem more like common sense to some folks, or at least I'd hope. I know it
Yeah.
seems more like common sense to you, um, but for some people it might not be. And let's just understand that, it says our file system format. Like if you think about a computer, you use the
Mhm.
body, which is a good example as well. But if we could also
Mm.
think about it like a computer, and we have a file system like on our computer, and that is, think about it like the kid, right? The kid before he becomes an adult. This is the conditions before in his formative years. And it
Mm.
says if there's a bad operating system or culture and a bad software programs like beliefs, bad beliefs,
Mhm.
erroneous, rigid, dogmatic, things that constrict the brain, their output or their behavior, because their thoughts become their behavior,
Yeah.
onto life, which is reality, will also be bad. So what they put in that's bad is what comes out, which is bad. So if a kid is raised up in a bad environment, it's more likely that he's going to turn out a bad kid. But he can take charge of that and he can reverse it. But
Yeah.
that's
He
that.
can
But
take
what is that?
charge
But
and
how do you do that? You have to reverse the programming that was set on you by your formative years, which was your file format, your culture, which was that or operating system, and the software programs, which were those belief systems. So that way you can reformat yourself, like you said, and
Mhm.
be that software program that you want to be the change you want to be, but create the life that you desire, right? So,
Yeah.
because that's ultimately what you're doing through your beliefs
Desire
and
and
actions.
desire and deserve as a
Hmm.
human on this beautiful earth.
Right. And so it
Yeah,
says, like
that
a
was totally
computer, the behavior of a human being will largely depend upon its programming. Simple.
right. Mhm.
That's the power of parenting, frankly. And this is how our reality is built, simply put. We go from information, we decide upon that information, we make a decision, and then that decision turns into our action, and that action then turns into the reality. So if
Mm.
everybody has certain
Mhm.
information and everybody makes a certain decision and everybody takes certain actions, the reality of everybody in the whole world is going to turn out in the way we might want it to turn out.
Mm.
But
Okay.
everybody must be taking those same actions with the same knowledge. If the knowledge isn't there present to begin with, they can't take the action, right? So if
Right.
natural law is not present, again, because it's the most deeply occulted knowledge kept away from people, then their actions are not going to be based in it. Their actions are going to be based on some other information. Uh, and that knowledge might not be complete. Again, it might be dogmatic. It might be based on those belief systems. It might be based on those cultures, some of those bad programming. And their reality will become chaos. See, it says generate result up here, order or chaos. It's our choice whether we want a better world or a bad world. It depends on our actions. So this is why natural law is most important, because although it's
Right.
present and you can talk about all these other types of law and admiralty law and common law and all these other things, this is the basis to all of life, and everything goes by this.
Right.
That although it sounds overly simplistic, it ties in so well with what must be done, because if you have knowledge, then your actions will result based on that knowledge. And this knowledge we're going to keep discovering as we go on here. But that knowledge, as just as far as we've went so far, is understanding that man creates laws that are not universal and not eternal. That's powerful enough to say,
Mhm.
because most people think when they say the law, again, they're just referring to that man's law. They don't even consider the fact that
Think
there's
about
anything, yeah,
yeah.
innate. And so, and yet, they people live by objectivity to everything else in their life, but not behavior. They put behavior aside and saying I could just do whatever I want in my life, and it doesn't affect. It's not going to matter. They will completely disregard the fact that there are consequences to their actions on that part. But for other things, then they'll give the exception. People are giving themselves mental loops all the time, and that's what
Oh yeah.
the purpose of this show is to do. Because I'm gonna have other guests on, and I think it would be in purpose. It would be very important for me to do that. So principles of
I agree.
natural law. We're not going to go over all the principles, but what principles means is first things, first, foremost, leading, right? Things that are most necessary. That's what principles means. Principia. Okay?
Pia.
Yeah. And to be fair, I probably may not have said that right because it's Latin. I don't speak Latin.
Principia.
But yeah, so it's that which is most important. Okay? Because it's the first and foremost. It's what's leading everything else. And
Top
so
tier.
it is through the principles that natural law is expressed into the universe, because you have to question, well, how are these laws put into effect? And what are these laws? So we're going to get into that. I'm going to leave it there because, I know I keep leaving you in suspense every show, but now we're actually getting down to what these laws are and how these laws are expressed. So we're only going to go over...
Correspondence.
Yeah, these are very basic, very simple.
Gender. Ooh, that's going to be really interesting.
These are very simple, and they're not that hard. The biggest one here is cause and effect, right? And maybe even correspond. I mean, they're all important. They're all really good. But cause and effect, I think, has a lot of meaning to people, because this one is the most generally understood one. And everything is cause and effect, right? So, and we describe that here with how our reality is built, how our program becomes who we are, how the program becomes the reality that we live in. So that's what the world is under. So, and Trajan said people react differently in this quest to find the answer. Yeah, they do react differently, and that reaction is what's most important. It's the reaction. So how people react is how this world is going to continue on. Because if people are reacting in a state of fear, like, oh my gosh, what's happening in the world? I don't know what to do. Then guess what? They're going to be dependent on someone else to fix that problem for them. And they're going to bow down and be like, oh, I need help,
A government?
But if they stand up strong and they say, I can tackle this, then they can take charge of their own life. They don't need somebody ruling over them, telling them what to do, when they have no right to do so in the first place.
Yeah.
And I know I say that freely in front of you because you're used to me using that terminology. I wouldn't say that, in front of you if you weren't used to me using that terminology, because it might sound shocking to some. But I'm saying it to you because obviously you're familiar with it, and we're going to go more into what that is, though, because you need to know, if you're going to share with other people natural law, Crystal, you need to know the difference between right and wrong, the difference, between a crime and what's not a crime. Like, that's it.
I agree.
That's the most important thing. And what it means. Why is it important to study natural law? And what do we do with it? That is what we're going to cover all next episode. We might even want to bang it all out next one because we already covered some of the basic psychology. And if we can get to that point, then you might have a really good understanding of it. But we give it as much time as it needs. If you feel like you want to go over any of these topics again and feel like there's anything to cover,
I think if it goes over an hour, I think that's a-okay, because I think kind of splitting this up may actually be a little, if we can keep it within one frame, I think it would be best.
Yeah, but let me know if you ever want to go back or go learn more about anything that we go over, because we're going to revisit these terms once in a while. But this is where we're going to leave off for today. So thank you, Crystal, for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone in the chat.
I'm glad that we're back.
Yeah, thank you, everyone in the chat. And it's true, watch how you react to the world around you. They're looking for reactions, the people who put things into the world. Well, think about it. All of social media is about getting attention, getting reactions on your comments. Everything is about looking at how people are going to react to you. And, we're in an identity crisis. Oh, how are people going to perceive me? How is the world going to judge me? And, we're in this constant state of fear where we shouldn't be. And that could be very dangerous.
We're also massive pawns on the chessboard.
Yeah.
And those who are controlling us at the top of the pyramid are those who are trying to,
think about it.
Make us conform consent to what they want us to believe in. Study
vibrations. Low vibrational energy is fear. Those
panic.
Those low frequency states, and it causes our brain to shut down and constrict itself, and to constantly run ourselves in loops where we just don't know what to do, and therefore we have no choice but to be controlled by someone else. We accept it. We willfully accept it, because what else are we going to do? We feel like we're hopeless when we're in a state of fear. So the number one thing folks need to do, if you're going to take away from listening to this, is do not fear. Move forward and create the world that you want by finding the root cause to your problems, by asking the why. Ask the why to find the root cause to your problems. Address each problem, make separate goals if you have to. Address it as a coach, if you will, using coaching strategies. But understanding natural law is understanding any effect to the causes that are brought into this world. So if somebody puts an order into your city, somebody passes a law, question how really lawful is it for them to pass this law and push it upon everyone and mandate it in my town or city.
Mm-hmm.
Are they, is it moral for them to do this, push it upon everyone else and force them to obey by threat of violence? Question that. Who actually has the right, to do such a thing? Where do they get that right? Does it come from nature, or are they just presuming it upon themselves, saying, yeah, I can do whatever I want? Well, I guess they must be some powerful godlike figure if they can do that. So just ask some questions about the world you live in, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty basic once you ask those questions. Thank you, Crystal, for joining me. I won't leave you any
Thank
longer.
you. It's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad that we're back. I'm excited for future episodes. I hope you all who are watching, wherever you're coming from, any platform that Cory is streaming this and putting this out, I hope that you all learn something and take something away from this. Make sure to share it with your friends or anyone that you think that may be interested in learning natural law. You really can just, as long as you have an open mind, that's all you need. That's the key to finding your ultimate
Mm-hmm.
freedom and everything. So stay true, stay you, and just keep doing what you're doing. Cory, you're doing amazing work. I'm very proud of you, and thank you for putting up with me. I didn't really contribute a lot this episode, but I think this
That's
is kind of
okay.
just like a review
We had to
episode to
review,
kind of just
yes.
like,
We had to.
so next episode we will be full force into getting back into the whole education process of natural law, and I hope you all gonna tune in and hang out with us
Mm-hmm.
and chill. And it's a nice vibe that we have going on. So thank you, Cory, for having me. I appreciate it
Thank you.
always.
I appreciate it. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Peace out.